to enjoy the gems of modern Indian literature. Please press the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. If you wish to skip the introduction and go straight to the story, the links to the same are given in the description below. The primordial fear, or the collective fear, that the protagonist Shahani encounters in the story Sikya Badal Gaya is something that she never experienced ever before in her life. This fear brings about a change that completely transforms her. But what is this fear? The roots of this primordial fear are grounded in the accession of Jahangir after the glorious times of Akbar and the murder of Akbar's counsellor Abul Fazl. Abul Fazl was one of the 9 jewels in the court of Akbar. He wrote the Akbarnama and he also translated the Bible into Persian and Arabic. In his autobiography, Jahangir narrates a conversation between him and Akbar. "My dear child," said Akbar, "I find myself a powerful monarch, the shadow of God upon earth. I have seen that he bestows the blessings of his gracious providence upon all his creatures without distinction. Should I discharge the duties of my exalted station and withhold my compassion from any of those entrusted to my charge? With all of the human race, with all of God's creatures, I am at peace. Why then should I permit myself, under any consideration, to be the cause of molestation or aggression to anyone? Besides, are not 5 parts in 6 of mankind either Hindus or aliens to the faith? And were I to be governed by motives of the kind suggested in your inquiry, what alternative can I have but to put them all to death? Therefore, my wisest plan is to let these men alone. Neither is it to be forgotten that the class of whom we are speaking, in common with the other inhabitants of Agra, are usefully engaged either in the pursuits of science or in arts, or of the improvement for the benefit of mankind." The inception of Pakistan began with the murder of Abul Fazl by Jahangir. To get rid of Abul Fazl's influence on Akbar, Jahangir had him killed. Akbar chastised Jahangir for murdering him and spreading false rumors that Abul Fazl propagated, that Muhammad was not a prophet. He was just a well-spoken con artist. And the sacred inscriptions recorded in the Quran were nothing else but fabrications invented by the ever-blessed Muhammad. This is where the coin started to turn. सिक्का यहीं से बदलना शुरू हो गया. With the murder of Abul Fazl, the decline of the Islamic rule in India would begin. It would be accelerated by Jahangir and Shahjahan's incessant attack on Mathura. But the tipping point would be reached when Aurangzeb would do the unthinkable, that is, lay his hands on the Kashi Vishwanath temple, for which he will never be forgotten nor forgiven. The decline of human rights from Jahangir to Shah Jahan and to Aurangzeb was a dark and gory phase in Indian history. It is difficult to speak about the deeds of these people post the reign of Akbar, so I will skip most of it. The deep-rooted fear that these activities have caused to the Indians is difficult to escape or ignore. But the worst crime was yet to come, when an Indian would invite a foreign invader to slaughter his own people and loot his own homeland for the sake and glory of Islam. Hanafi jurist and Sufi saint Shah Wali narrates a dream that he had, where he explains the concept of Darul Harb and Darul Islam, and the sacred duty of the Muslim. The dream is something like this. Then I proceeded towards a city, destroying it and killing its inhabitants. Other people followed me. Thus, destroying one city after another, we finally reached Ajmer. And there, we killed the disbelievers. Then I saw the king of infidels walking with the king of Islam, surrounded by a group of Muslims. In the meantime, the king of Islam ordered the king of the infidels to be slaughtered. People grabbed him and slaughtered him with knives. When I saw blood gushing out of the veins of his neck, I said, "Now."
blessing has descended. Muslims, no matter where they live, wherever they spend their youthful days, they should in any case be completely separated from the natives of that country in their culture, traditions, and mannerisms. And wherever they are, they must be immersed in their Arabic splendor and Arabic trends. He further exhorted that forcing infidels to accept Islam was an act of mercy towards them. It is like a bitter medicine administered to a sick man. Moreover, there can be no compulsion without eliminating those who are a great source of harm or aggression, or liquidating their force and capturing their riches, so as to render them incapable of posing any challenge to religion. Thus, their followers and progeny are able to enter the faith with free and conscious submission. Jihad made it possible for the early followers of Islam, from the Muhajirun and the Ansar, to be instrumental in the entry of the Quraysh and the people around them into the fold of Islam. Subsequently, God destined that Mesopotamia and Syria be conquered at their hands. Later on, it was through the Muslims of these areas that God made the empires of the Persians and the Romans to be subdued. And God wishes the same for India. Shah Wali wrote to Ahmad Shah Abdali, inviting him to invade India and slaughter its people. He says, "We beseech you in the name of the Prophet to fight a jihad against the infidels of this region. This would entitle you to great rewards before God, the Most High. And your name would be included in the list of those who fought for jihad for His sake." As far as worldly gains are concerned, incalculable booty would fall into the hands of the Islamic Ghazis, and the Muslims would be liberated from their bonds. It has become clear in my mind that the kingdom of heaven has predestined that Kafirs should be reduced to a state of humiliation and treated with utter contempt. Should that repository of majesty and dauntless courage gird his loins and direct his attention to such a task, he can conquer the world. As I have learned this straight from the divine, I spontaneously write to draw your attention to this great opportunity laid before you. You should therefore not be negligent in fighting jihad, to draw your swords and not put them back in their sheaths again, until Allah has separated the Muslims from the polytheist, and the rebellious Kafirs and the sinners are made absolutely feeble and helpless. And by taking up the sword to make Islam supreme, and by subordinating your own personal needs to this cause, you will reap vast benefits. And disaster of unheard devastations descended upon India. But Abdali's actions would not fare well for the Afghans. Alarmed by the rise of the Sikhs and having lost some of his best generals in the Battle of Kunjpura against the Marathas, even after a spectacular win at Panipat, Abdali could not wage further war against the Marathas. Seeing the pathetic conditions of his soldiers and their refusal to wage any further war against the Marathas, Abdali dispatched a letter to the Peshwas on the 10th February 1761 as he withdrew back to Afghanistan. In it, he wrote, "There is no reason to have animosity amongst us. Your son Vishwas Rao and your brother Sadashiv Rao died in battle, which was unfortunate. Bhau started the battle, so I had to fight back unwillingly. Yet, I feel sorry for his death. Please continue your guardianship of Delhi, as before. To that, I have no opposition. Only let Punjab until Satluj remain with us. Reinstate Shah Alam on Delhi's throne, as you did before, and let there be peace and friendship between us. This is my ardent desire. Grant me this desire. This would also become the borders of Pakistan, as the Britishers in their cut and run phase would grant Abdali what he had desired from the Marathas. But Wali's dream would come back to haunt India even after partition.
According to Hussain Zaidi, Islam was hijacked by dogmatic, violent, and power-hungry terrorists within the first few decades of the religion. He further adds that these insolent owners of Islam do not regard Imam Hussein as their role model. For them, Osama bin Laden is their inspiration. These merchants of death are convinced of their righteousness. They are dangerous because of their indoctrination and violence.
This book by Hussain Zaidi and Brijesh Singh, called The Dangerous Mind, is something that one must definitely read. It says, Dangerous Mind delves into the complex and intricate lives of some of the most talked about terrorists in the country.
Dr. Jalees Ansari, a doctor from Malegaon, involved in 80 blasts, including some on the railway tracks, was supposed to be a quiet, peace-loving medical professional.
Fahmida Saeed, a housewife and a mother of two from the Jogeshwari slums of northwest Mumbai, planted the bombs herself in a bus and taxi and returned home as if nothing had happened. Mansoor Peerboy, a reticent techie, was a brilliant programmer by the day and chief of the Indian Mujahideen media cell by night.
Mehdi Masroor Biswas was a Bengaluru-based techie who turned out to be one of the most prolific propagandists for the Islamic State.
What drove them to such violent designs? What were their compulsions? Can a human being be so ruthless and heartless? And why? The extermination of the Hindus during the time of Wali and Abdali is unforgettable, and that is the primordial fear. And this imbibed fear is still valid even today. Events like the Mumbai blast, the Pulwama attack, the attack on the Amarnath pilgrims are constant reminders that the fear of the Walis and the Aurangzeb are not unfounded. It has not ended with the murder of Dara Shikoor. We still have them in our midst. And the Dara Shikoors of the country are aware of this fear, but can't do much against the Aurangzebs and the Walis who are going to triumph. So if these incidents don't stop, the coin will continue to change. सिक्का बदलता रहेगा. A poem by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, अब तुम ही कहो क्या करना है, laments about how we have lost a 5,000-year-old civilization. How we have become rootless and rudderless when we disconnected ourselves with our own land and rivers and jumped on the Arabic boat. And now all our cunning cannot tune us back to who we really are. Can we today say that we are Hindustani, the proud heirs of one of the greatest civilizations? In fact, another poem by Faiz, Hum Dekhenge, cannot be seen independent of this core loss, especially after Zia-ul Haq regime, when all future was lost forever. जब दुख की नदियां में हमने जीवन की नाव डाली थी, था कितना कज़बल बाहों में, लहू में कितनी लाली थी. यूं लगता था 2 हाथ लगे और नाव पूरम पार लगी. ऐसा न हुआ हर धारे में, ऐसा न हुआ हर धारे में, कुछ अनदेखी मझधारें थीं. कुछ माझी थे अनजान बहुत, कुछ बेपरखी पतवारें थीं. अब जो भी चाहो छान करो, अब जितने चाहो दोष धरो. नदिया तो वही है, नाव वही. अब तुम ही कहो क्या करना है, अब कैसे पार उतरना है, अब कैसे पार उतरना है। जब अपनी छाती में हमने इस देश के घाव देखे थे, था वेदों पर विश्वास बहुत और याद बहुत से नुस्खे थे। यूं लगता था बस कुछ दिन में सारी विपदा कट जाएगी और सब घाव भर जाएंगे। ऐसा न हुआ कि रोग अपने, ऐसा न हुआ कि रोग अपने कुछ इतने ढेर पुराने थे, वेद इनकी टोह को पा न सके और टोटके सब बेकार गए। अब जो भी चाहो छान करो, अब जितने चाहो दोष धरो, छाती तो वही है, घाव वही। अब तुम ही कहो क्या करना है, ये घाव कैसे भरना है, ये घाव कैसे भरना है।
Krishna Sopti, in her story Sikka Badal Gaya, describes the events that unfolded on that one fateful day in the life of Shahani. Shahani was an old, kind, and respected woman of the village. Ever since she came to the village as a bride, which was around 50 years ago, there was one routine that she followed regularly, which was going down to the banks of the Chenab River for her early morning bath. But little did she know what that day held in store for her. खद्दर की चादर ओढ़े, हाथ में माला लिए शानी जब दरिया के किनारे पहुंची तो पौ फट रही थी। आसमान के पर्दे पर लालिमा फैलती जा रही थी। शानी ने कपड़े उतारकर एक ओर रखे और श्री राम करती पानी में हो ली। अंजलि भरकर सूर्य देवता को नमस्कार किया, अपनी उनींदा आंखों पर छींटे दिए और पानी से लिपट गई। चनाब का पानी आज भी पहले सा ही सर्द था। लहरें लहरों को चूम रही थीं। दूर कश्मीर की पहाड़ियों से बर्फ पिघल रही थी। उछल उछल आते पानी के भंवरों से टकराकर कगारे गिर रहे थे। लेकिन दूर दूर तक बिछी रेत आज न जाने क्यों खामोश लगती थी। शाहनी ने कपड़े पहने, इधर उधर देखा, कहीं किसी की परछाई तक न थी, पर नीचे रेत में अगणित पांवों के निशान थे। वो कुछ सहम सी गई। Shahani had an uncomfortable feeling that something is wrong. A pale sense of doom lingered in the air. Her vast fields and her huge mansion never made her feel unsafe even after her husband Shahji's death. She felt safe among the villagers, who were like an extended family to her and whom she loved dearly. And she also had Shera. Shera was like a son to her. He was Shahji's servant, and after his mother's death, it was Shahani who had looked after him as his mother. She decides to go and speak to him about the footmarks. But what was unknown to Shahani was that Shera had already murdered 40 people in the ongoing riots. But he could not commit himself to open loot and plunder of Shahani's house as long as she was in it. शेरे, ओ शेरे, शाहनी की आवाज उसे कैसे हिला गई। अभी तो वो सोच ही रहा था कि उस शाहनी की ऊंची हवेली की अंधेरी कोठरी में पड़े सोने चांदी की संदूकचियां वो किस तरह से उठाकर, कि तभी शेरे, शेरे, शेरा गुस्से में भर गया। किस पर निकाले अपना क्रोध? शाहनी पर। चीख कर बोला, ए मर गई है, रब तेनू मौत दे। हसीना आटे वाली कनाली एक को रख जल्दी जल्दी बाहर निकल आई। ए आई, क्यों छावले तड़पना है? अब तक शाहनी नजदीक पहुंच चुकी थी, शेरे की तेजी सुन चुकी थी। प्यार से बोली, हसीना, ये वक्त लड़ने का है। वो पागल है तो तू ही जिगरा कर लिया कर। जिगरा? हसीना ने मान भरे स्वर से कहा। शाहनी, लड़का आखिर लड़का ही है। कभी शेरे से भी पूछा है मुंह अंधेरे क्यों गालियां बरसा रहा है? शाहनी ने लाड़ से हसीना की पीठ पर हाथ फेरा, हंसकर बोली, पगली, मुझे तो लड़के से बहू प्यारी है। सुन शेरे। हाँ शाहनी। मालूम होता है रात को कल्लूवाल से लोग आए हैं यहां, शाहनी ने गंभीर स्वर से कहा। शेरे ने जरा रुककर घबराकर, नहीं शाहनी। शेरे के उत्तर की अनसुनी कर शाहनी जरा चिंतित स्वर में बोली, जो कुछ भी हो रहा है अच्छा नहीं है शेरा। आज शाहजी होते तो शायद कुछ बीच बचाव करते, पर शाहनी कहते कहते रुक गई। शेरा सोचने लगा, क्या कह रही है शाहनी? आज शाहजी क्या, कोई कुछ नहीं कर सकता। ये होकर रहेगा, और क्यों ना हो। हमारे ही भाइयों से सूद लेकर शाहजी ने सोने की बोरियां तोली हैं। प्रतिहिंसा की आग शेरे की आंखों में उतर आई। शाहनी की ओर देखा। नहीं, शेरा इन पिछले दिनों में 30-40 कत्ल कर चुका है, पर वह ऐसा नीच नहीं। सामने बैठी शाहनी नहीं। शाहनी के हाथ उसकी आंखों में तैर गए। वे सर्दियों की रातें कभी कभी शाहजी से डांट खाकर वह हवेली में पड़ा रहता था, और फिर लालटेन की रोशनी में वो देखता शाहनी के ममता भरे हाथ दूध का कटोरा थामे हुए। शेरे उठ, पी ले बेटा। शेरे ने शाहनी की झुर्रियां पड़े मुंह की ओर देखा तो शाहनी धीरे से मुस्कुरा रही थी। शेरा विचलित हो गया। आखिर शाहनी ने क्या बिगाड़ा है हमारा? शाहजी की बात शाहजी के साथ गई। वो शाहनी को जरूर बचाएगा, लेकिन कल रात वाली बात, वो कैसे मान गया फिरोज का मशवरा? सब कुछ ठीक हो जाएगा, सामान बांट लिया जाएगा। शेरा शाहनी से बोला, शाहनी, चलो तुम्हें घर तक छोड़ाऊं। Shera escorts her back home. His nerves are jumpy, his ears alert to every surrounding sound. He did not have the courage to warn Shahani of the fate that awaited her. As they walked home, Shahani saw dark smoke arising in the horizon. It was the city of Jabalpur that was burning. Shera was aware that Jabalpur would be looted and plundered that day. All of Shahani's relatives lived in Jabalpur. She was now truly alone in the whole world. Shahani probably guessed what had happened, because suddenly she felt very tired and weak, and unable to go further, she sat down on the stairs of her house. Dawn turned to dusk, but she could not gather the strength to get up and go inside the house. The voice of her maid Rasuli startled her. ट्रकें? शाहनी इसके सिवाय और कुछ न कह सकी। हाथों ने एक दूसरे को थाम लिया। बात की बात में खबर गांव भर में फैल गई। बीबी ने अपने विकृत कंठ से कहा, शाहनी, आज तक ऐसा ना हुआ, न कभी सुना। गजब हो गया, अंधेर पड़ गया। शाहनी मूर्तिवत वहीं खड़ी रही। नवाब बीबी ने स्नेह सनी उदासी से कहा, शाहनी, हमने तो कभी ना सोचा था। Stunned, Shahani looked around. She could see figures hidden in the dark. She called out, "कौन है वहां? Who's there?" Suddenly the entire village showed itself up to her, their heads lowered in shame. Begu Patwari and Mullah Ismail approached her. They tried to convince her that what they were about to do was no fault of their own. They were helpless. Thanedar Dawood Khan, whom Shahani had helped on various occasions, came close to her and whispered in her ear. शाहनी, थानेदार दाऊद खान ड्योढ़ी के निकट जाकर बोला, देर हो रही है शाहनी, कुछ साथ रखना हो तो रख लो। कुछ साथ बांध लिया है? सोना चांदी? शाहनी अस्फुट स्वर में बोली, सोना चांदी? बच्चा, वो सब तो तुम लोगों के लिए है। मेरा सोना तो एक एक जमीन में बिछा है। दाऊद खान लज्जित हो गया। शाहनी, तुम अकेली हो, कुछ पास होना जरूरी है। कुछ नकदी ही रख लो, वक्त का कुछ पता नहीं। वक्त? शाहनी अपनी गीली आंखों से हंस पड़ी। दाऊद खान, इससे अच्छा वक्त देखने के लिए क्या मैं जिंदा रहूंगी? दाऊद खान निरुत्तर है, साहस कर बोला, शाहनी, कुछ नकदी जरूरी है। नहीं बच्चा, मुझे इस घर से। शाहनी का गला रूंध गया। नकदी प्यारी नहीं, यहां की नकदी यहीं रहेगी। शेरा आन खड़ा हुआ पास। दूर खड़े खड़े उसे दाऊद खान को शाहनी के पास देखा तो शक गुजरा कि हो ना हो कुछ मार रहा है शाहनी से। बोला, खान साहब, देर हो रही है। शाहनी was startled. Shira's voice echoed in her ears. खान साहब, देर हो रही है। देर हो रही है? It's getting late. But this was her own house, her own village. And these were the people whom she loved so dearly, and now they waited impatiently to throw her out of her own house. For a brief moment, she felt very weak and defeated. But soon she regained her composure. She got up. She pulled her dupatta over her forehead and folded her hands. This was her last greeting to her beloved villagers. For a moment, she had this longing to turn back and look at her house for one last time. But she decided against it. She could not show them her weakness anymore. With her head held high, she walked down the path to an uncertain future. ट्रकें अब भर चुकी थीं। शाहनी अपने को खींच रही थी। गांव वालों के गले में जैसे धुआं उठ रहा है। खूनी शेरे का दिल टूट रहा है। दाऊद खान ने आगे बढ़कर ट्रक का दरवाजा खोला। शाहनी बढ़ी। इस्माइल ने आगे बढ़कर भारी आवाज से कहा, शाहनी, कुछ कह जाओ। तुम्हारे मुंह से निकली सीस झूठ नहीं हो सकती। और अपने साफे से आंखों का पानी पोंछ लिया। शाहनी ने उठती हुई हिचकी को रोककर रुंधे रुंधे गले से कहा, रब तो आनू सलामत रखे बच्चा, खुशियां बख्शे। वो छोटा सा जन समूह रो दिया। जरा भी दिल में मैल नहीं शाहनी के। और हम शाहनी को नहीं रख सके। शेरे ने बढ़कर शाहनी के पांव छुए। शाहनी, कोई कुछ नहीं कर सका। राज भी पलट गया। शाहनी ने कांपते हुए हाथ शेरे के सिर पर रखे और कहा, तेनू भाग जागन चन्ना। दाऊद खान ने हाथ का संकेत किया। कुछ बड़ी बूढ़ियां शाहनी के गले लगी और ट्रक चल पड़ी। अन्न जल उठ गया। वो हवेली, नई बैठक, ऊंचा चौबारा, बड़ा पसार एक एक करके घूम रहा है शानी की आंखों में। कुछ पता नहीं ट्रक चल पड़ी है या वो स्वयं चल रही है। आंखें बरस रही हैं। दाऊद खान विचलित होकर देख रहा है इस बूढ़ी शाहनी को। कहां जाएगी अब वो? शाहनी, मन में मैल न लाना। कुछ कर सकते तो उठाना रखते। वक्त ही ऐसा है। राज पलट गया है। सिक्का बदल गया है। रात को शाहनी जब कैंप में पहुंचकर जमीन पर पड़ी तो लेटे लेटे आहत मन से सोचा, राज पलट गया है। सिक्का क्या बदलेगा, वो तो मैं वहीं छोड़ आई। और शाहनी की आंखें और भी गीली हो गईं। आसपास के हरे हरे खेतों से घिरे गांव में रात खून बरसा रही थी। शायद राज पलटा भी खा रहा था और सिक्का बदल रहा था। दिस इज सिक्का बदल गया by Krishna Sopti. Read it to enjoy it more. Till then, see you.